as I can remember, actually, with my sister, because she's so much older than I am, and we slept in the same bed. So I recall him getting in the bed with us and doing the acts with her. And my mother would say sometimes, "Joe, not tonight."
Your mother knew?
Oh, yes, my mother was very much aware of it. And then there were times when my sister couldn't take it anymore, and she would ask my mother to go get help for him, psychological help. And she refused to do that. And eventually my sister just decided that she wanted to leave home, that she could not deal with it anymore, so she left home.
You're talking about... Go ahead, I'm sorry.
That's my...
Wow. This is LaToya Jackson back in the days on this TV show back then. It's an old footage, but she's talking about her dad and how he was abusive. Joe Jackson. He was abusive to his children. But I'm not trying to be funny, but
Sister Ruby.
Right.
Look at LaToya. Don't she look like Michael with a wig on? I mean, it's a carbon copy face. They must have went to the same plastic surgeon. They had to have. And I remember her spilling the beans back in the day that Michael didn't have any skin disease as he claimed he did. And as the doctors claimed he did. But LaToya, she didn't have it. She didn't have a skin disease. But she said Michael bleached his skin back in the days. She spilled the beans on that. But who knows what's true or not. But it seemed like more of the fact, because look at her. She had a nose job, everything. She looks exactly like her brother.
And that's when he started sexually abusing me, when she left home.
But you were very young when it started.
Very young, yes.
And how long did it go on?
It went on for a couple of years. It went on basically my entire life. I spoke to my mother about it a couple of years ago when I couldn't take it anymore. And I asked her for help. I said, "Mother, I need help. Please help me. I just want to know one thing. Why is he doing this to me? Why did he do these things?" And she answered me by saying, "Yes, your father did these things. He was sick at the time, but you're not supposed to talk about it. You're not supposed to mention it. And don't you ever mention it again."
What? What kind of mess is that? What kind of mother is that? A mother, what kind of... Only thing I can say is that this woman was so afraid of Joe Jackson. She probably was afraid of him because she may be afraid of what would happen to them if they would talk about it when they were younger. But still, your mother, come on. And there are mothers out there that have allowed not just fathers, but boyfriends do that to their daughters, just so they can keep their man. They would turn it back.
And I called her again. I said, "But you don't understand. I need help. I need to know why. I need to know something. Please help me." Because you get to a point in your life where you can't cope anymore. You're thinking about it constantly. And I couldn't deal with it. And I kept reaching out for help because she was my best friend. So I turned to her for help. And she wouldn't do anything about it. And she kept saying, "If you ever mention this to the public, I will deny it. And I will call you a liar. And they won't believe you."
Wow.
Let me just ask you, because I had read a quote from your husband manager, Jay. He said you were repeatedly raped and that you're a very sad woman because of it. Is that a fair?
Well, at a young age, my father engaged in that with me when I was much younger. As I got older, no, because he could go out and get any girl he wanted. However,
that man was sick. Any mother that stayed with a man like that, she should have took her children and left. I don't care if she had to go to a shelter or anything. And that Joe Jackson, allegedly, according to her, according to LaToya, just went down the line with his sister. I wonder if that's the case with Janet. Did he get to her also? If this is true. And I kind of edging towards it being true because Joe Jackson was, he was controlling and he was abusive to his sons. Even Michael talked about that.
Sexually, verbally, it continued. He would say terrible things to me if we were alone in the room. "You know you want this, come over here and get it." Things like that he would say to me as I was older, but younger.
Wow.
Children don't have a lobby, so we can't say no, but as an adult, we have a choice to say yes or no. But even as an adult, I couldn't say no when he said things like that because my parents were so strict that we weren't allowed to really say no or anything. So I just had to listen to him talk to me like this, and I'll dare walk out the room. He'd grab me and beat me if I were to walk out the room while he's talking to me, so I just had to take these things from him.
How did it make you feel about yourself?
I had no self-esteem all my life. I felt dirty. I felt unclean. I felt guilty. I felt like I was doing something wrong. I felt like everybody out there knew, which in fact they couldn't have known because they weren't there. They weren't in the same bed with me and my father. But you just feel these things. I don't know if it's something that works on you mentally, emotionally, but you feel these terrible thoughts and you think them constantly. And it's a terrible feeling. And I just would continuously shake constantly, my entire body, and I couldn't control the shaking. I would have to put my hands down to stop the shaking all the time when I would think about what my father would do. But I kept it very quiet.
Wow.
It's something you don't discuss with other people, other members of the family, and I never did. Coming from a well-known family like I did, we were always in the media, and we had to smile and pretend like everything was okay, and that's exactly what we did. Even though it wasn't okay, it was terrible.
Have you forgiven your father?
My father, it's sort of a hard question to answer when you say, have I forgiven him? I should probably answer you by saying that I blame my mother more than my father, because I think if any man who's sleeping with his daughter and the wife is standing there and she's part of my blood and he's not, and she allows him to do this to her.
She said, she's part of my blood and he is not. I wonder what she meant by that. Is he her real father or is he a stepfather? Or does she mean that, is she referring to that her mother carried her for 9 months and, you know, so therefore she's closer to her mother when it comes to that? I mean, you know, maybe that's what she means when she said, I have her blood, but I don't, she has my blood, but he doesn't. Some, you know, whatever. Huh.
Daughter, something's wrong. Something's wrong with the man. How could she stay with him like that? This is her daughter.
Exactly.
Leave him, like my sister asked. Leave him, do something, go somewhere. But she chose not to. She chose to stay right there and watch him do that. Why, I don't know. I'm sure there are a lot of reasons. Perhaps she would prefer to see him with the daughters than another lady on the street. I don't know.
You know what? That's crazy, because I mean, it seems like it's like a comparison. It's like a close comparison between the Jacksons and the DeBarge family, because they came, you know, they were considered the new Jacksons when they came on the scene when Motown signed them. But all of the DeBarges were messed up mentally because their dad was abusive, and their dad used to rape, sexually molest their sister Bonnie, because they came on and they did, you know, on a show or whatever, and I saw them on a documentary or something like that when they started explaining all the things that their dad did to them. How could mothers sit by and just watch something like that happen? And one of the DeBarge brothers, when they were kids, you know, tried to keep the dad from taking Bonnie during the times that he wanted to, you know, do what he would normally do with her, and he would threaten her brother. So these children, even though they're in the limelight and they become adults, they have psychological issues, and it's amazing how they just kept hush hush with that. I mean, the mother, and she said that she blames the mother more than her father, because mothers are supposed to protect their daughters. They're supposed to really protect their daughters and not allow something like that to happen to them. You know, this just shows the fact that women got it hard in this world, because they can easily become victims of abuse, and it's happening every single day all over the world. You know, you got the trafficking going on, you know, with the women. They're snatching them off the streets, you know, all kind of crazy stuff. They're putting little things on their doorknobs and and flagging their vehicles so when they come out of a store, they snatch them. They just all these little tricks. Man, women have it rough, and I really feel bad for them. And they need to be very careful out here, especially these days. But women have always been easily victims for men to be abusive to them, and that's wrong. So it's sad. It's sad, if all of this is true and what she's saying, because the family kept it hush hush. She's the only one that's speaking out. So it's kind of making her look like she's crazy, if that's the case. Because nobody else other than Michael, but Michael didn't speak of as far as I know, the sexual abuse part. He just said his dad used to always say he was ugly, look at that fat nose, look this, that, and the other. That's so sick. That man is sickening. Wow. That's a horror to have a dad like that. I think it'd be best to have no dad at all than a dad like that.